Hey friends, welcome to Ask Dr. Heather. This is Dr. Heather Carden, your host for today. Today is Wellness Wednesday, but I actually want to get to some questions I've been getting. I would say 3 years ago when I was trying to explain ketosis, it took a really long time, and now we know that ketosis is one of the top searched Google words. So keto life, intermittent fasting, all those things, actually people are doing an amazing job educating themselves on I always call it Dr. Google, but people are really understanding what that means. People are having, by the day, thousands to millions of people, tens of thousands of people every day are experiencing that amazing state of ketosis. So I want to welcome you if you're joining me today. Hey, Amanda, thanks for popping on today. I have a lot of people asking me for clarification because it can be super confusing when you go to Pinterest or you go to Dr. Google or you go to your friends or the library. You can literally find any information that you want to validate what you're saying anywhere you want to go. Sally is not a bad word, but I've always been called Simple Sally. I want to make it very simple for people to understand because it doesn't need to be complicated. I think we've been through this quite a bit with friends. Like we know there's two fuel sources. There's glucose, which comes through glycolysis, and there's ketones, which come from ketogenesis. However, there's other ways to get in ketosis, and there's been such a huge big tug of war, like the ketogenic diet versus exogenous ketones. You're really not in ketosis. Well, if we go by Wikipedia definition, medical books, I put it up above. Ketosis, I'm reading off my computer over here. Ketosis is a metabolic state in which some of the body's energy supply is coming from ketone bodies. It is some of the energy, and depending on how much of the energy depends on what your urine stick says, or depends on what your blood meter says. So I have the Precision at the office. I have the Keto Mojo at home. So if this registers over 0.5, it means my body's in ketosis. The higher the level, the more ketone bodies, the more energy that's available to me versus ketone bodies. So ketone bodies can be acetoacetate, acetone, beta-hydroxybutyrate. Some of the breath meters actually that you're using, like the ketonics, they actually measure the breath acetoacetate. So that's sometimes better for an epileptic patient because that's a ketone body that fuels their brain a little bit more efficiently. You can go to the Charlie Center Foundation and get more information about that. But today, we are keeping simple science. Let's go way back to your conception. So when you were in your mommy's tummy at about 20 weeks, you probably went into a state of ketosis. That's why they always check moms about 20 to 24 weeks for gestational diabetes because they want to make sure that baby's in a state of ketosis. Ketosis is our body's natural mechanism. Our bodies are super smart. They know how to conserve lean muscle mass. They know how to preserve energy, and they know how to go when food's not always readily available. So about 20 weeks, you're in ketosis. As long as you are breastfed, because the minute that babies are born, mother's milk doesn't come in right away. If you've been a breastfeeding parent, whether you're male or female, within the first 5 minutes, the baby's not nursing, sometimes not the first day. But that state of ketosis, that brown fat that makes that baby all nice and fluffy, is really what protects that baby from losing weight. It can lose a little bit of water weight, but losing weight. And then a breastfed baby doesn't have to supplement with generally vitamins, doesn't have to supplement with water because breast milk is really the perfect energy source for babies. So if you were a baby, which most of us all are on here, you were in ketosis in your mom's utero, unless you were born before 20 weeks, but I don't think that happened that long ago. And then again, as long as you were breastfed. Maybe you were a kiddo and you were running around crazy playing with your friends, you forgot to come home for dinner, or maybe you got home and you didn't like what you're having for dinner and your mom sent you to bed early and then you woke up the next day late. You could have actually slipped into ketosis while that was happening. So as we look at that, there's so many times our body slips into ketosis. I think people are so focused on exogenous ketones, and they should be focused on that because it's an amazing option, that people just really target the ketogenic diet versus exogenous ketones. Well, we know as babies, as children, if you have the flu, you're sick for 2 or 3 days, it's your body's protective mechanism because when you're in ketosis, that body's burning fat for fuel. Again, that metabolic state in which some of the body's energy, not all, it could be a little glucose, some of the body's energy is burning fat for fuel. So if you get sick, it's a body's way to protect your lean muscle mass. If you're an ultra endurance athlete, or if you were born back in the day and you're running from tigers and bears, it was a way to make your body very efficient in burning the fuel source that was available to you. So our ancestors would have been in ketosis or out of ketosis. They weren't measuring things. They weren't looking at the sticks. They were simply going, I'm eating when I'm hungry, I'm stopping when I'm full, I'm eating when food's available, and I'm stopping when not. So it's a very natural metabolic state. So we can be there as babies, you can be there as breastfeeders, breastfed, if you were got in trouble and got sent to bed as a little kid in this day and age, you could have gotten ketosis, especially if you're running around the neighborhood playing and running through your glucose and through your glycogen, then your body protected itself, and as you slept could have slipped into ketosis very naturally. I've been an endurance runner earlier in my days, did my first marathon when I was a sophomore or junior in high school. I remember I didn't like the first 2 or 3 miles because it was so hard, and now I know, boy, and I hit that 3rd or 4th mile, boy, I'm like the Energizer Bunny. That's my body went from burning glucose into ketones. So even though I was a standard American feeder or feeding that diet, carb loading as an endurance athlete, I actually went into ketosis naturally, and that's where my performance went higher. We see that all the time with ultra endurance athlete. I was not on a ketogenic diet, but my body naturally did that because it knew that's where the fuel source needed to be. Maybe you actually went on an HCG diet, whether it's the injections, the pellets, whatever, and you're having HCG, which is our human corticotropin growth hormone. So HCG is actually found in pregnant women. It's the way to protect the baby, especially in failure to thrive third world countries when food maybe wasn't available. It's a way to protect the baby, so the baby still got the fat from the mother, and it protected the baby so that it actually could thrive and not just survive in utero. So even in third world countries, failure to thrive babies, we would see babies being born at 7.5 to 8 pounds because of HCG. Well, a few years ago, the HCG became very, very, very common. And if you're on the HCG diet, you're not consuming any fat at all. Do you get in ketosis? Yes. Is that the goal? Yes, because if you're on the HCG diet and you're in ketosis, then you're ensured that your lean muscle is being protected and not broken down, because it's a very low calorie diet. On an HCG diet, if you're not familiar with it, it's anywhere from about 500 to 800 calories. Absolutely no fat, no lotions, no Pam spray, no oil, anything like that. Not even lotion on your body, not conditioner in your hair, not your anti-aging cream, not moisturizer. Absolutely no fat, because with the HCG diet, and again, you only do it very short term, and you have to rotate through it. You can't do it back to back. About 6 weeks is about the max you can do it, or 35 pounds. 42 days, 35 pounds, whichever comes first. But you're absolutely consuming no fat. Is your body in ketogenesis? Yes. Are you checking for ketones? Is it going to show up? Yes. Is it the ketogenic diet? No. So it can be very confusing, because I know we're all stuck on this ketogenic diet versus low carb versus paleo, but there's so many other ways that your body actually naturally goes into ketogenesis or ketosis when it's burning fat for fuel. So if you go on the show Naked and Afraid, how do those people survive, 21 days? Well, an average 40-year-old male who has 10% body fat, and most Americans have more than that, because we know by the year 2050, 50% of the population will be obese and diabetic. So that's just a few years away. I don't know why I'm checking, it's 2019. But we know that most people can go several days without doing it, because a male who is 10% body fat has about 40,000 stored calories. So you can kind of go online, calculate what your percentage of body fat is, how many calories you burn a day, and how many days you could survive without food. That's why I remember Dr. Jason Fung sharing a study of a man who went 365 days without food. Now, he did do some nutritional supplementation with some electrolytes, but he definitely went 365 days without food because he had enough stored fat. That's that brown bear syndrome. So again, not to confuse, and I am an advocate for the ketogenic diet, but you can get in ketosis many other ways. So on Naked and Afraid, if you were a baby, if you had some duct tape, if you were abducted by your neighbor and you're put in somebody's basement, that could happen as well. If you got the flu and were sick for 3 or 4 days, that could happen. If you're an adult or an endurance athlete runner, that can happen every time you go do your long swims, your bike rides, your runs, your rows, any of that type of thing. Your body can actually get into ketosis, and that's when it's most efficient. Your brain's super targeted, or you can do it with dietary, or you can do it with pure therapeutic exogenous ketones. So PTH is what we call them, pure therapeutic exogenous ketones. So yes, you can do it with an HCG diet, not eating any fat. It's only meant to be short-term. It must be medically supervised. You must start with over 25 to 28% body fat. You're not even a candidate really in my clinic or other clinics if you're not over 30% body fat, because it won't work, because it'll break down your lean muscles, because you're consuming and applying absolutely no fat. Where the ketogenic diet, as you know, is 75 to 80% fat. It can be a lifestyle, so you can actually live on it day after day, decade after decade. And somebody asked me yesterday, talk about binging, talk about binge eating, talk about cyclic ketogenic dieting. So that's where I'm going with this. So I want to make sure people understand that, hey, I'm in ketosis. Yes, you can be in ketosis if you're on the HCG diet. Yes, you could just finish a crazy, crazy good workout and be in ketosis, but actually be a low carb, high fat zone paleo eater, but your body went through your glucose and glycogen, so now you're in ketosis. You could do a fast. You could prep for colonoscopy, and if you have low body fat and you consume a whole lot of unnecessary carbs. You could actually get in ketosis just waiting to prep for a colonoscopy or something like that. Or you can intentionally be in a state of ketosis, consuming exogenous ketones, eating a healthy diet, eating a ketogenic diet, and combining those exogenous ketones. So hopefully that helps answer some questions. And yes, hello to everyone who's hopping on here. I love hearing your stories of what's happening inside your body, what's making the big difference. But I did want to create some clarity because people keep asking what's the difference. So the difference between a standard American diet, as you know, is higher in carbs, moderate fat, moderate protein, low fat. On a cleaner diet, paleo diet, instead of 65% carbs, it may be 35 or 40%. And then if you go low carb, the carbs are going to be 30 to 35%. If you go keto, then it's going to be really 25, 20, 28, just depending on your body's metabolic. Paleo, standard American diet, low carb diet, your goal is not get into ketosis. It's simply just to eat clean. On the paleo and a low carb diet, you're only in ketosis if you measure. That's how you know. I know a lot of people like, I'm doing the macros. My macros are perfect. Look at my fitness pal. Look at my carb tracker. But you're not measuring in ketosis. So your body's not in that state of ketosis. It's not actually having that option to metabolically use your body's energy as fat for fuel. So make sure that if you're doing a low calorie, low carb diet, because oftentimes what we know is it's more important when you eat than what you eat. So when you're on a ketogenic diet, you're not necessarily consuming less calories. You're consuming calories from a different type, right? Because we're not consuming all those calories from carbohydrate. We're consuming those all from healthy fats. So Debbie's saying, hey girl, anyway, hey Missy, can you eat? So Debbie, let me know, what do you mean, can you eat? So definitely on a ketogenic diet, you definitely want to be consuming calories. If you're trying to increase lean muscle mass, trying to gain weight, yes, eat more than 80% of your diet in healthy fats, absolutely. You can, or if you're trying to lose weight, you want to create a negative deficit. So I just want to explain the difference between that, because everyone seems kind of confused that you're only in ketosis if you're on a ketogenic diet, which is not true, because an HCG diet on a low carb, high fat, an ultra endurance athlete could be switching into and out of ketosis. It can happen just all the time. So Debbie, yes, after you drink ketones. So yes, Debbie, again, the definition is metabolic state where your body's burning fat for fuel, and you can measure it with a meter. I'm a visual learner. So yes, when I drink pure therapeutic exogenous ketones, and the company Prove It has done this through millions of serving, 99% of the time, you're going to find elevated levels of blood ketones in your body. So I'm not going to say that's true for all companies. I'm going to say it is true for Prove It. I've tried other companies on my own body, but that is the one that has put my body in that state of ketosis. I was actually on a ketogenic diet. You probably heard my story before. In 2014, after my accident, snow skiing accident, I was on a ketogenic diet. I didn't feel super great because I wasn't getting my ketone level high enough. So once I was able to add in pure therapeutic exogenous ketone, that means the ones that are most bioidentical to what our body makes. It's what our body absorbs. There are lots of things out there on the market. People are slinging the word keto on foods that really aren't even keto, that don't even contain any keto bodies, because you could actually put keto all over the meat counter. You could put keto all over the oils and nuts section in the store. You could put keto all over the fresh vegetable section, not the fruit section, but the fresh vegetable section. So I just want to help just kind of clarify that, because I'm getting 100 questions on that. Next one's about cyclic ketogenic dieting. So cycling, it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about, 5 days versus 3 days, like I want to eat Monday through Friday, I'm going to be super healthy in keto, and then I'm going to binge on the weekend. What I have seen, and what I've seen from researchers and research studies over the last really 5 to 8 years, and what I've seen in my own office with bikini model competitors, is that they lower that carb down, they get in ketosis, and then they binge feed on sweet potatoes, brown rice. What happens is they can get a leaner cut of themselves, they can get more muscle mass. But what I've seen with that happening, though, is that their bodies, again, that survival mode, like our ancestors, it stores it around visceral fat. So I've seen people's outside bodies get smaller, but their visceral fat rating go up. Starting maybe 12 and under is where a visceral fat rating should be. I had someone who started at 10. The next month, they were getting cyclic ketogenic diet, 3 days, 5 days, 3 days, 5 days. So they'd eat, Monday through Friday on a ketogenic diet. Then they would binge or load, or whatever you want to call it, targeted ketogenic dieting on for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then it would take their body Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to get back in that state of ketosis. By Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they have about 72 hours of ketosis. Then they refeed, and their body's back in that state again. So what happens is, I feel like at the cellular level, nothing really ever gets cleaned out. And then again, the body's innate intelligence for survival says, I'm going to get calories now. I'm going to store this. The best place to store it is around my organs, to keep it warm, to keep that fat really close where it needs to be, my kidneys, my intestines, my heart. So I'm not an advocate for cyclic ketogenic diet or targeted ketogenic dieting. My view could change as research comes out, but that's where it stands now. However, I am a fan of people doing seasonal ketogenic dieting or low carb dieting. Like we talk about, on low carb athlete could be in ketosis after workouts. They go to bed. It happens all the time because their body, our bodies, not their bodies, our bodies are that smart. So I live in Kansas, and I know my uncle was a blueberry farmer. That blueberries only grow 3 weeks of the year. He was also a pumpkin and a Christmas tree farmer. So during that season, we would have blueberries for 3 weeks. We wouldn't have them the other 48 weeks of the year, or 47, 49 weeks of the year, right? So the same thing's true for pumpkin and squash, is that you'd only have them just a very short period of time, 10 to 17 days of year. So that 3 weeks, yes, we'd have our blueberries, those great antioxidants. We'd boost up our antioxidants. We'd lower down that ratio. And then after the blueberries were gone, we would, because there's no oranges growing here in Kansas or things like that, then our bodies could go back in that state of ketosis. We do have lots of walnut trees and pecan trees here in Kansas. So then that's what our body would be feeding on. We have cattle that roam 24/7, 365 days. We have cattle that are roaming out in the field and things like that. So I think seasonally people can absolutely do that based on the seasons of acupuncture, based on the seasons of where you live. Some of it comes into your DNA and ancestral, what your native fuel source is. That means if you're Northern American or African American or Cherokee or Asian, that would definitely matter on what was bioavailable to your body and to your gene pool, depending on how clean your gene pool is and depending on where your ancestors were raised. I hope that that makes sense, because if you're in a warmer climate your whole entire life and that's your genetic pool, then you're going to be genetically different than someone who was in northern Alaska their whole entire life, where all they really had was whale blubber. They didn't have access to collard greens and wheat and corn and things like that, so they could survive very efficiently more in a carnivorous diet or carnivore diet. What's a carnivore diet can also get you into ketosis. Not being a ketogenic diet, you can also not get into ketosis on a carnivore diet, because we know excess protein goes through a process called gluconeogenesis. That's why there's no essential carbohydrates, because we can take those excess proteins that we eat, break them down into amino acids, antibodies, and store it as excess glucose. So that's why there is no essential carbohydrates. We don't need a banana, we don't need that oatmeal, but I'll let other researchers or you guys pick up that book. But I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Know that this is meant to be shared. I am not a researcher. I'm in the lab testing the rats. I do try to stay up on what is the most credible current information that is being published in research studies, not in just, what words do I want to use? Influencers, ideas. But I do actually take your questions, the real questions I have for my patients, my friends, and my family. What's all that confusion? Are you only, and this is a question that I had, are you only in ketosis if you're only on a ketogenic diet? The answer is no. You are in ketosis whenever your body's burning fat for fuel. Can that happen when you have a flu? Yes. Can it happen in a baby? Yes. Can it happen in an ultra endurance athlete? Yes. Can it happen in a ketogenic dieter? Yes. Can a ketogenic dieter not be in ketosis? Yes. Can a low carb diet get into ketosis? Yes, through exercise. Can you drink pure therapeutic exogenous ketones and get in ketosis? The answer is yes. Can you fasting and can you get in ketosis? The answer is yes. But how do you know? We only know with testing. We don't know with guessing. A lot of people can innately kind of feel. And again, if you want to know, that's why I'm saying those biohackers out there. And I am very much an objective data person. So I like to see what numbers are telling me. And oftentimes I'll have my patients test it when you feel good, whether it's your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your ketones. Test it when you feel bad. The same thing for people who suffer from thyroid issues. Check your temperature when you feel great. Check your temperature when you don't feel good. That way you can actually find that baseline. Oftentimes people wait till they don't feel good to start getting data on themselves. So I do encourage you to be your own detective, to be your own person who's educating. If you are suffering from an illness or a disease, please check with your healthcare provider before you start any lifestyle changes, any dietary changes, but do be your own advocate. What that means is do the research, look at the data, see if it's coming from an influencer, somebody who wrote a book who has it in, or is it really coming from data? And I'm all about experiences. Everything doesn't have to be in data. And I'm not quoting articles here as we speak. I have a whole bunch of books back there. I could say it's just the conglomeration of, 25 years of reading and 30 years of reading in school and research and understanding the body's biochemistry. But I probably could have done this in 3 or 4 minutes. The answer is no. A ketogenic diet is not the only way you can get in ketosis. You can get there many different ways. And is a state of ketosis amazing? Yes, it is amazing, because it's our body's way of protecting. It protects our lean muscle mass. It actually takes whatever the energy is available and gives it to the most important organ. We can't say I have big toe-itis. I just wish it would fix the itis in my toe, because your body says, you know what? I think your brain needs the energy more right now. I think think your heart needs the energy more. I think your intestines need the energy more. So our body really does a lot of stuff without us knowing it to try to help protect us and keep us at a homeostasis, which is the most kind of balanced rate. So I want to thank you guys for your questions, because you do inspire me to dig a little bit deeper. You do inspire me to get ready. I'm always super nervous. I make like 10 note cards before I get on usually, and then I don't even look at the note cards. So I do want to thank you guys for joining me today and inspiring me. I do want to let you know tomorrow we are kicking off our 20-day Keto Kickstart Challenge. We still have room for a few more people. We only take right around 100 to 125 people. I do this with several other doctors. Dr. Jamie's on here, so big shout out to Dr. Jamie, who's helping me coordinate all these amazing events. I know she had a Keto 101 and had like well over 100 people show up because people want to know. So that's why I'm using this format on Facebook to help you answer those questions. Again, if you have questions, let me know. If I said something that's totally wrong and I miss my information on research, please help me. Shout it out. Let me know. Say, hey, I found this article and this supports this. And again, look at who the article is being produced by. If it's being produced by a magazine or it's actually being recited from a clinical research study. And again, there's so much research going on. And now that we have the internet, believe it or not, when I was in school, we didn't have the internet. Is that crazy? We couldn't go to Dr. Google. We had to get all the books out. We had to read. We had to go to the library. We had to get everything out. We couldn't just click, 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 and have that at the touch of our finger. So it is great to have Dr. Google around there, but also know that you need to make sure that you're targeted on the answers that you want. Ketones, what are they? They're a fuel source for our body. They're the most efficient fuel source for our body. It can be the desired fuel source for our brain when our brain has been impaired, either by a traumatic brain injury or by a concussion or a fall down boo-boo down the stairs or on your bicycle, or if you're an elite athlete, or again, if you've had diabetes, type 1 or type 2 or type 3, we know that ketones are the preferred brain source for your body. We know based on clinical studies that ketones, based on a ketogenic diet, can actually decrease NLRP3 inflammasome. It can decrease that inflammation. We know that sugar feeds inflammation. That is all out there. We also know that there's no essential carbohydrates. There are essential amino acids and there are essential fatty acids. So hopefully I brought a little bit of clarity to what the word keto, ketogenesis, ketosis means, ketone body, and know that there's more than one way to get in ketosis, and it is our body's native state. Native meaning that's how we protect it when there's no food available. That's how we protect it when we're running from the cheetahs and the panthers a long time ago. That's how the baby is protected when their mother's born and there's not food or water available. Again, it's just our native state and way our body was born. So I love being in that state of ketosis. I feel like my brain is most heightened awareness. Do I miss some things? Sometimes people ask me, do you ever want to cheat? My answer is, sometimes. But I know that I don't feel very good the next day. And then I also know I want to be true to you. So yeah, I could eat a whole thing of Halo ice cream, but I just couldn't go run it off today. So anyway, Pam, great question. So Pam, if you want to know more about the 20-day challenge, just send me a message either through Facebook Messenger, email me at Dr. Heather at cardinwellness.com, or I'll actually get with you in a minute. And know that if you do want to know more about ketones, you can simply go to my blog, which is pinned up above, AskDrHeather.net. You can download your guide, a free guide to kickstart your day in the right way. It is my favorite ketogenic food list, which does not have dairy on it except for grass-fed butter, very limited in fruits. It is a very autoimmune friendly, allergy friendly ketogenic food list. And I also have 3 of my favorite breakfast recipes. So someone if you're more of a carnivore, someone if you're more of a vegetarian, someone more if you're a vegan. So a great way to kickstart your day in the right way. Thanks again for joining me, guys, and I'll be seeing you soon.